Hey everybody. So this week we've been given the task of discussing the topic of nursing unionization. This is a topic that I hold very close to my heart, as I feel that any West Virginian with an understanding of our state's rich and bloody labor union history should. The Matewan Massacre, the March on Logan, and the subsequent Battle of Blair Mountain, all of which are considered part of the West Virginia Mine War that raged on between 1912 and 1922, are just a few of the conflicts of historical importance that really every working West Virginian should be aware of. The fervor that I carry for workers' rights and representation has come with me across 3 careers and has only grown stronger over the last few years. Years that have been peppered with low pay, short staffing, and dangerous patient loads for nurses across the country. In this video, we'll briefly discuss some of the broad concepts of unionization, and then we'll drill down on some of the specific implications for nurses. So to begin with, we should ensure that we have a decent understanding of the National Labor Relations Act, or the NLRA. According to the National Labor Relations Board of the United States, the NLRA is a piece of legislation that was passed in 1935 that is designed to promote the workers' right to utilize collective bargaining as a tool for them to create safer workplaces that provide better working conditions to the worker than what would normally be possible without the collective power of the united group. This act achieves this by ensuring the freedom of the worker and the working class to assemble and select representation for a group without fear of retribution. While the entire NLRA can be read on the National Labor Relations website, there's a specific passage that I'm particularly fond of for its clarity and pragmatism in the face of worker exploitation. That passage is, "The inequality of bargaining power between employees who do not possess full freedom of association or actual liberty of contract, and employers who are organized in the corporate or other forms of ownership association substantially burdens and affects the flow of commerce and tends to aggravate recurrent business depressions by depressing wage rates and the purchasing power of wage earners in industry, and by preventing the stabilization of competitive wage rates and working conditions both within and between industries." This long run-on sentence of a passage makes clear the reason that this act of Congress is not only necessary, but also adds credence to the idea that exploiting workers can and eventually will lead to negative economic consequences of particular significance. The National Labor Relations Act also lays bare what are considered as unfair labor practices carried out by an employer and explicitly deems them as dangerous and resulting in the depression of commerce. These activities include preventing employees from exercising the rights described earlier in the Act, discriminating employability based on any number of qualifying factors that could be considered prejudiced, and retributive firing of an employee due to that employee's filing of a legal charge or their testimony in a court hearing related to the employer. While this is not in any way an exhaustive list of the unfair labor practices outlined within the Act, it does provide a little bit of context to the tone of practices considered damaging to the working class and the economy of the U.S. as a whole. So now that we understand the NLRA, we can move on to focus specifically on unionization in the field of healthcare. While unions are often a great equalizer for the downtrodden employees, one should not necessarily take this for granted. Any nurse considering joining a union should still ask themselves and the union stewards questions pertaining to the methods of election of representation, the historical successes and failures of similar unions within similar working climate and industry, and if the union is even truly necessary in their facility in order to enact the desired changes that they want to see. Though unions and the power of collective bargaining hold a very special kind of might, not all scenarios involving the formation of a union will be beneficial to either the worker, the employer, or their clientele. Unionization for nurses, just as any other profession, has many benefits and drawbacks. Some of the benefits of unionization include the ensuring of safe working conditions, advocacy for higher pay, assurance of due process for discipline, consistent standards for hiring, promotion, and termination, and third-party investigation into grievances. On the other hand, some of the drawbacks of unions are that the union does have fees, there's the potential for unpaid strikes, there's a variability in the action supported by various union members, a greater propensity for the reward of seniority over performance in the union, and the potential for a union to protect the nursing staff over the safety of patients. All of these topics and many more are worth pondering when considering joining a union. One potential productive use of collective bargaining that can be employed by nursing unions is to pressure administration about aspects of care that are outside of their control, but that affect everyday practice as well as patient outcomes. Factors such as poor communication and response time when urgent news is given to physicians and unsafe working conditions are among the most frustrating aspects of patient care. A nursing union could, potentially, force an administration that focuses more on monetary value than staff experiences and patient satisfaction to address these concerns by a unified group of nurses, where other facilities might simply terminate an employee that is unable to function in such an unhealthy environment. A 2021 study of unionized versus non-unionized nursing home employees reported that there was a significantly lower amount of COVID cases in the unionized facilities than there was the non-unionized facilities. This indicates to me that patient safety can be directly affected by the ability of the staff to engage administration on a more even playing field with regards to direct patient care and general safety practices. While unionization typically results in positive outcomes for employees across all fields of work, it's not the only method for obtaining a desired outcome. Communication is still the most effective tool one may have at their disposal, whether union or not, when they're bargaining for a change. Respectful and clear communication, practiced by all parties involved in a discussion, can provide the benefit of changing the mind of those involved instead of just forcing them to acquiesce to goals. Above all, maintaining an open mind and being willing to alter one's own perception and point of view to understand the motives and experiences of others is paramount to effective bargaining. Without this willingness to change, no group can expect to reach a beneficial exchange that can survive the rigors of everyday work, even when the understanding that you have of the other person's motives is that they are diametrically opposed to your own desires and experiences. Ultimately, it's up to the individual to decide if they wish to join a union. The effectiveness of a union lies in its ability to democratically offer solutions for problems identified by union members. If less people wish to join a union than those that actually do join, that union will either not exist at all or be almost entirely ineffective. It can be said, though, that even with laws in place to restrict retributive acts by employers against union members and union organizers, that it is not wrong necessarily for one to fear of retribution from their employees when considering unionization. There are various cases in the news regularly, right now specifically with both Apple and Starbucks, that highlight the impetuous nature of large corporations and their complete or almost complete disregard for the rules of law as more of a suggestion to them. Both of these companies promote anti-union sentiment and have gone so far as to fire employees promoting unions or even shut down entire branches that are likely to unionize. It's up to the individual if they wish to risk their employment for the betterment of themselves, their peers, and their patients. The potential benefit is great, though, and any company that would illegally wage war on labor unions does not deserve to have a workforce, in my opinion. Remember our fallen coal miners here in West Virginia and their fight for safety and equality. They risked much more than just their jobs to help right the rule of law in blood here in West Virginia and ensure that their brethren had the same protections that they themselves fought for. So I think that probably covers all of just a quick touch on unionization. Like I said, it's something that I'm really passionate about, and this is really kind of only scraping the surface. So if you are interested, it's very much worth reading into the history of West Virginia and how there was such a push for unionization in the coal mines in the early 1900s. Anyway, I look forward to reading listening to other people's videos and seeing what other people think. Y'all have a good rest of your evening.